So I got a question on YouTube from Sue, but her question is, she's never heard of the term sourdough discard. Let me explain that to you. So when I fed my sourdough starter, I weighed what was in here, and I only want to keep about 800 grams of sourdough going at all times. When I fed it this morning, I started off with 400 grams of sourdough starter. I added 200 grams of water, 200 grams of flour. Now I have 800 grams. I removed 75 grams to make this focaccia. So that leaves me with 725 grams. I do not want to add another 725, half in flour and half in water, and double this. And then the next day double it again, and then double it again, and double it again. I will not have a container big enough. I do not make bread daily. Might make bread maybe twice a week. So I don't want to continue doubling and tripling and quadrupling this recipe every day to keep the sourdough starter alive and active. It needs to be fed daily. The longest you should go is 36 hours, which is a day and a half. Do not go any further than that because you're starving the bacteria and the yeast that's in this container. Do not go further than 36 hours. Ideally, every 24 hours. So what I do is I take what I don't want to double, the leftovers from that 400 grams of sourdough starter, and I'll put it in a mason jar and I'll stick it in the refrigerator. And this jar right here is my sourdough discard. This is not a fed, live, happy, thriving sourdough starter. It's the discard. Some people will just throw this away, which you can, but I'd rather use this in a discard recipe that doesn't need to be bubbly and active like crackers or the cereal we have been making and really enjoying. So this is sourdough discard. This is after it's been fed and it's happy and it's bubbly and it does its rise and then it falls. And when it falls, it needs to be fed again. And I don't want to continue doubling, so I will take out what I'm not going to double. I always keep 400 in here, add 200 flour, 200 water in grams, and anything left over goes in here. This is sourdough discard. If you look at it, there's a little bit of bubbles. Let me see if I can get you at a better view. There's some bubbles in there, but it's not bubbly. This is discard. I don't know if you can see, but this is the active. This is alive and bubbly and very active. This is an active sourdough, a sourdough starter. So if you're like me and you don't make bread every day, I don't want to waste it. But I definitely don't want to double it and triple it and quadruple it. I will just pour everything in a bowl, weigh it out. Anything over 400 grams goes in here, 400 grams goes back in here, and that's what we feed. We feed the 400 grams. Most of our recipes only take about 100 to 150 grams. This one took 75, but most of it takes about 100 to 150 grams. If you start off with 400 grams of sourdough starter and you add 200 grams of flour and 200 grams of water, that's going to give you 800 grams. Once it does its rise and it's active and it's bubbly and it's thriving, you make your recipes. Once it hits that state, your recipe, let's say, takes 150 grams. 800 minus 150 leaves you with 650 grams. I do not want to double that 650. I will take out 250 grams, put it into my refrigerator discard jar. That leaves me with 400 grams for me to double. Does that make any sense to you? The only reason we're doing that is so that we're not having a large amount that we have to feed double every day. Yeah. So I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator. This is going to stay right here. Like I said, I fed it this morning. It's alive, it's active, it's bubbly. We made focaccia.